everywhere. It's like,
Good to know that, right?
yeah.
Walking aboard here. Good morning, Zoe. My name is Biniam. Nice to meet you, darling.
Nice to meet you.
Just want to give you a quick update at the outset here.
Mm-hmm.
I do an unusual thing in my Uber where I like to live stream and share amazing connections I get along the way. So just wanted you to note that so you don't incriminate yourself or share things you're like, I don't want anyone knowing this about me.
No worries.
You got a nice early start to a day.
Yeah, I'm actually running about 5 minutes late. But
Are
yeah.
you? Okay. Let's see if we can get you there.
No worries. The
Good
first
time.
stop was just a Starbucks because I desperately need my caffeine
Certainly, dear.
in order to
Function in the morning?
keep up with kids.
I was just sharing with my... Oh, you work with kids?
Yeah.
So that's a lot of energy that goes in already. I know that.
Yep.
I've worked with kids for decades as well, so I can appreciate what goes in there. You know, something that I've often noted with some sadness is that there aren't many men who are in your area of work.
I find
Yes.
that especially true in Alberta.
Yeah.
Like worked in like the UK
Yeah.
and BC as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And you see
A
a
good
higher
distribution?
percentage
Really? Of men?
there,
Yeah.
but in Alberta, not so much.
Interesting.
And I think, I mean, part of it has been, it's been such a, here, this is the only, one of the only opportunities for women for so long
Yeah.
that it's an attempt to slowly wear itself out. But
Yeah.
I think it also really has to do with how, like, childcare and teaching, how those industries grew in certain parts
Sure.
of the country and the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, in Alberta,
Yeah.
you didn't have to be licensed with to work with children
Yeah.
till 1995.
Okay.
That's when you needed some form of credentials to work with children.
I see.
Whereas in places like British Columbia,
Yeah.
it was mid-70s
Okay.
when that was starting to be regulated.
I
So
see.
that's like decades of difference.
Before, yeah.
And in BC, it
Yeah.
was a lot more community-based. So like there wasn't, yes, there were day homes and things like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're building this center because that's a need in the community.
Right.
Whereas in Alberta, for a much longer period of time, it was
Yeah.
just day homes, or there wasn't like built for purpose buildings for childcare.
Right.
It's a converted house. It started as a day home, then it grew, and then it's a converted home. And so now you are seeing built for purpose childcare at
I've
a much
seen that.
larger scale.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, that's
Yeah.
not where the industry was, and that's not where society view was
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
And like still today,
Same.
I've toured parents who've come in and
Yeah.
dad's gone, the price is what? Isn't it just like babysitting?
Yeah.
Like that's the mentality.
I see.
But at the same time,
Yeah.
they'll have come to like an event like later because open door policy, parents can come visit.
Okay.
And I've overheard them go, I don't know how they do it. I can't do it with my one. And
I
so
know.
I'm like,
It's
right.
a skill, right?
Babysitting.
No, I know.
Not to say there's anything wrong or less about babysitting,
No.
but babysitting is such a small piece of that child's day.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
Or it's for a special night out, so it's
Yeah.
like you get maybe 2 hours, an hour and a half, and then that little one goes to sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So yes, that's a vital point.
Yeah.
That you have to make sure they're safe while they're sleeping and check
Sure.
on them.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
Yeah.
if a child goes to daycare or
Yeah.
before and after school program, that's hours. That's a large percentage, a majority for a lot of children of their day
Absolutely.
is spent
Yeah.
in this
that
other setting with these other people.
Yeah.
And so some of that mentality goes, unfortunately, with history. And so it goes, I might not be comfortable
Mm-hmm.
with a man.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Sure enough. Yeah, I
So,
see that as well.
I've worked with male educators who are amazing, and I've worked with male educators, unfortunately, who were, it seemed like
Not
an
very fit.
easy thing to do for before and after care, for example. Not so much in the younger ages, but for before and after care, who were just like, yeah, maybe they did Big Brothers and Sisters or
Right,
something like
right.
that.
Yeah.
And so they saw it as, yeah, I can do this, but might not have the same background as somebody who worked
And,
with younger ones and then moved up.
right. Yeah. And I also wonder too if, I mean, the other thing I've noticed is how the compensation for you and your fellow coworkers is so disproportionate to the amount of investment in the community, literally, and the future of the community that is being acknowledged. So you're mentioning how, oh, it's just babysitting versus actually there's a lot more here that's going on in the formative years of these individuals and what you're binding yourselves to try and do, and the amount of output you're doing energy-wise. You know that you're also like going home not only.
Teachers don't get paid enough.
Oh, I know. But just like coming home at the end of the day, not only are you physically exhausted like most others, but you're also emotionally taking a toll as well too, because there's just a lot of that connection happens.
Yeah.
In a way where the clientele isn't, they're not aware, nor do they care about what it costs you, right?
I think that's a large percentage, but then you have other large percentage who, especially if you have those open door policies, they see that, but at the same time, without government support to supplement that, it's not realistic for a lot of people. And unfortunately, that means that a large percentage of the population doesn't have accessibility to high quality childcare, and that's something that lowers everything. You hear often, if you educate women in countries that struggle, that helps the community.
Right.
At this point in westernized
contexts,
more affluent countries, that's the equivalent here.
Right.
And so if you have children who have an opportunity to be exposed to other cultures at a young age, other families at a young age, have the opportunity to, maybe they don't have the money to go to the zoo as a family, but the center goes and helps supplement that. Or they've never got to see a magician, or like the mad science people come in, something like that, and they have that exposure and that opportunity. That helps balance out those equalities and gives them a better start. It also helps give them, through no fault of their own, if you've got parents who have to work one or two jobs, that means the amount of quality time they get to spend with their child is less. And the only reason they're doing that is because the essentials have to be paid for. If they don't do that, the roof over their head, the food on the table, their outdoor weather gear, that doesn't exist.
Exactly.
And so it's not mom just works that much because she wants to kind of thing.
No.
So by having a high quality childcare where teachers are caring, they build relationships, it gives that child the interactions that help build those connections in their brain and those structures in their brain. Because yes, you can rebuild later, but it's the same thing with putting transit through. If you live leeway now when you give the building approval for the community, it means you don't have to go back in and bulldoze a whole bunch of houses to put the line in. It's the same thing with the brain connections. It's easier to build them when there's less stuff built up already. Then go back and try and retrain your brain to accept certain things, to be able to build those positive connections. And that's something that it's still being learnt about, but at the same time we do have a good basis, but it's not commonly known. You'll often hear people talk about right brain and left brain learning and things like that. But that mentality is from the 70s and has been disproven since then in children. In adults, those defined areas are already built up, and so it's much more true for an older person. But for a child, which is what it's geared as, we're helping those connections, that segmentation is not in a child's brain yet. So it's kind of false advertising. You need to have a wide base, and not all children view things the same. A child might view something that an adult would be, that's very artistic, that's self-expression, but to a child that might not be how they're viewing it. And so it's not how it's being built in their brain.
Yeah.
They might be like, well, I see it as it takes 3 bricks to get up that line.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking at it in a much more logical, spatial concept without even realizing that that's what they're doing.
And I'm grateful that we live in a time when there is more awareness of the different ways that one approaches taking in and experiencing the world, right? Whereas once upon a time, like you're saying, there was that cookie cutter model that said, here's everyone put through the same system, and you have to fit it or you squeeze into it or something like that. Right?
Or it's like, oh, you failed already.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know. In Alberta, there's a framework called flight curriculum.
Okay.
And when we were going through it and taking it, I was feeling very privileged because I'm like, I was new to the field, but at the same time, I'm like, well, this is how I was raised.
Yeah.
Not everybody had that same freedom of concept. Like, my mother was very big on children are small humans.
Yeah.
And so you have to give them respect and grace at the same time. So things like, even if it's only a small illusion of choice, being like, do you want this for dinner or this for dinner? Of course, I was going to get whatever I didn't pick the next day. Because she's like, single mom, I'm not going to go buy this other stuff.
Yeah.
But it gave me a feeling of being included and involved in that decision making.
Sure.
And that feeling of autonomy helped with everything else. And that's something that is much more accepted and thought of as a positive thing than it was in years past in the whole out of sight, out of no talking kind of thing.
So she's quite progressive for her time then too. Yeah.
The joke, I always tease her because
Yeah.
my mom's a bit older than most of my friends' generation's parents were.
Yeah.
So the joke is she's a hippie, an aged up hippie, and she argues the fact because she says, no, hippies were children whose parents had a lot of money who were in university and only did it on the weekend. And I'm like, but mom, by everyone else's definition in the world, this is you.
Where you land. That's funny.
So things like choice, or like things like we had sprouts on our pizza. Oh, just to the right there. Like we had sprouts and avocado and like plantain and like I knew what like injera was and like brought different things in your lunch. Like as a child, when it wasn't the norm, we had friends from all parts of the world. We had friends who worked with like Amnesty International, different things like that. I remember you hear on social media all the time now about, you know, how unkind some children were to other children when they were young, when they brought things like kimchi or something else in their lunch, or the
cultural.
Oh, why does it smell? The unfamiliar, and this triggered the human fear of, well, it could hurt me kind of thing, which is ridiculous. And I hear all these stories and I'm like, I feel bad, but that happened to me too, because I would bring that stuff. And like when we moved to Alberta, I came home from class and I'm like, Mom, everyone in my class is white. I was like so surprised. I moved from Vancouver and London to here, and I was like,
this is unusual.
If everybody's white, I don't know what to do with this. And I would bring food and they would be like, they didn't know what sushi was or this, and I'm like, I brought the bare minimum of cultural, like you shouldn't at least have an idea what it is kind of thing. So I'm just gonna pop in and grab the coffee.
And I'll tell you my 2 thoughts when you come back. I'll be here. She's sweet, isn't she? Hi friends. One here says, never trust a man in a bow tie, or something of the sort. I happen to do this on purpose because I love bow ties, and I'm gonna bring them back into style, and I do so unashamedly and quite brazenly. So take that. I appreciate people like Zoe here who are so committed to the work that they do for the right reasons, especially when you're investing in other people. So even just listening to her, and you could tell she's invested, right? Like you could tell she really cares about the work that she does, and I wish there was more people like that, especially in the realm of those who work with children, right? Which is pretty amazing. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Hello again, dear.
Hello.
So, I got one observation and two questions in the last 2 minutes of our ride. So, on the one hand, I was just sharing with the live stream here how I appreciate there's people like you who really care about what they do for the right reasons. Like they show up saying, "Hey, this really matters," regardless of how societally, it may lack that kind of acknowledgement and so on. So, and I wish there's more people like you in your craft.
Thank you.
In essence, one. And then two, what would you say is the number one characteristic that would serve one really well in this space that you do your work in? If you had to boil it down to one characteristic that you're like, this has got to be on display in such a magnificent way for one to accomplish amazing things.
Don't lose your wonder. In the world.
I see. I like that.
Not just as being able to see through a child's perspective, but also refine your own. So it might be something like the hoarfrost, for example, on the trees. It looks like it's so beautiful.
It is.
And
yes,
as frozen as you might be, it's something that a child would see even when they're like, "Mom, how far do I have to walk? It's so cold." It's something, and maybe as a kid you looked out the window and stared at it. I mean, this is a very northern hemisphere one. It's just to the left into the parking lot.
Awesome.
There. But at the same time, looking at it makes me think of memories and certain things, and so sharing that experience with children is me sharing my wonder, and when they share something, that's them sharing their wonder. And things like a child saying something off the cuff that you as an adult would have to your experience have shaped how you respond to something. And children share their wonder and how they view so simply. Things like yesterday, one of the boys, he didn't see anything at the book fair that he liked. He didn't see anything, but he saw something that his sister would like, and he suggested, "Hey, Mom, can we get this for her?" And then his dad was there. He's like, "Oh, you don't want anything," kind of thing. But I overheard, and I couldn't help but be like, I'm gonna not use the kid's name, but that's very sweet of you. It's nice of you to think of your sister, kind of thing. But that was him sharing his wonder of thinking of somebody else. And I think it's really important to help children feel that thinking and doing those things is a good thing, even if it's something like, I bumped into my friend and I hurt them and I feel bad about it. They might be okay with it, but I feel bad about it. And acknowledging that feeling and building, because that's how children understand right from wrong. That's how they start to see the world, and that translates as they get older and how they interact, how they do something, how they look at somebody and see that person needs help, or look at somebody and see that that person is doing their best and that's valid. And without that, in this field, you don't build the same connections, you don't have the same impact, and that it doesn't have the same impact on you.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, that's really good. I think even grown-ups in general just could benefit from hearing that too. Some more than others. Which is kind of why, people at this time of year talk about Christmas spirit and whether it's this religion or that religion. But I really think it's more to do with the season. So in winter, historically speaking, to survive, you had to group together. You had to work together in order to survive. In the northern hemisphere, in the cold, in the southern hemispheres, the torrential rains or what have you. And that working together, that sense of togetherness, doesn't necessarily have to be a connection with a religion or an event, but it so often is. It gave a meaning for doing something, and so it translates. So I don't celebrate Christmas per se because I believe in a certain religious event happened, but I do celebrate the getting together, and so I pick what I like from it. So when it's dark, when I go to work and when I go home, the twinkly lights make me happy. I love it.
I'm glad I met you.
Nice meeting you as well.
Thank you,
Have
darling.
a lovely rest of your day.
Too, darling. I'll just wait till you're inside the door, okay? Okay.
That was touching. I resonate with what she was saying when she was saying that. I resonate with what she was saying when she was saying that. Sorry, let me just check, make sure I have enough time to get to my next one. Yes, I do. Okay, I think I do. Yeah. Actually, I should start moving soon. Okay, I'm also moving now. All right, let's get going here. We got to hustle to our next one here, which is about 25 minutes away. But yeah, I resonate with what she was saying when she said that being young or remaining young at heart is really important. That's really, really beautiful, I thought. Are you okay? Yes, I am, Asma. I was just touched by what she was sharing. Oh, calm down. She's just waiting at the door still. And I gotta go. Otherwise, I'll miss this next reservation here. Yeah, I'll just check on her as we drive by here. So anyway, yeah, all that to say, remaining young at heart. It's I think one of the things that's kept me feeling young at heart, and I really appreciate that because that sense of wonder, that sense of playfulness and joy, and it's a beautiful experience, honestly. Beautiful experience. When one gets to experience that, it keeps them in this zone where, I don't know, life is just, it's sweet and wonderful and beautiful and hopeful and a lot of really beautiful things there. So I really like that she shared that as what she feels is super important, right? So yeah, I resonate with that deeply. Yeah, that was good. That was good. Bruh, that necktie looks sharp. Thank you. I appreciate that. Some like it, others are like, yeah, that's not their thing, right? But I appreciate it. You and I enjoy it, and bow ties are my thing. I like bow ties. I like looking sharp as well. And we're gonna make it. We're gonna bring it back into style, aren't we? We are totally gonna do that. Absolutely. You rocking that look. I appreciate that. Thank you. Friends, thank you for joining in on this episode. I do like a few episodes every day in the course of my work as an Uber driver. And so I'm glad if you are able to join in and experience the moments with me as I have fantastic conversations that I have never, I get such a access to broad range of perspectives, right? So how many hours do I work a day? I work about 12 to 14 hours a day. 12 to 14 hours a day, which sounds intense, but I think it doesn't seem that much of a deal for me, because I've worked long hours before, and I also enjoy the work that I do. Like, I genuinely enjoy my work as an Uber driver, so it's like going out to play, in essence, for me. I go out and connect with people along the way, and it's just a beautiful setting, like a really beautiful setting that I get to enjoy. So I'm super grateful for that. Yeah. So 14 hours, 12 to 14 hours. Here in Alberta, you can only drive 12 hours a day maximum, but not all of it is driving, so that's why it stretches to 14 on occasion at times. So long days for sure. It's what I do to make a living and pay for the bills and provide for my family, and I'm so grateful I live in a city that can accommodate that kind of work, because Uber, if I were trying to do this job full-time in a small community, I wouldn't have enough business, but in a city like Calgary, I'm so grateful like they actually rely on Uber, and so it makes it work for sure. But you need time to yourself? I agree, yes. So one of the things I'm working on for sure is how to have good balance in my life. So I take Sundays off usually, and evenings evenings and some weekends I'll go out dancing instead of working. So yeah, I do try to have balance that way. I've got a good group of friends that let me know when I'm crossing into that overworking threshold, so I appreciate that too. Yeah. Alright friends, I would love to see you again on the next live stream. It's going to happen in about 19-20 minutes according to my map here, when I get to my next location. Neha, you're asking if I'm Indian. I'm not Indian. I am from Ethiopia. But I've had Indians often ask me, hey, where are you from in India, kind of thing. So, and Pakistanis as well too, who think that I might be from Pakistan, but I'm not from either of those places. Although I would love to travel to your countries and experience and learn a lot more about it, because yeah, you've got a richness there that I think is magnificent, and I'd love to experience that. Thank you. Come again. Yes, please. I would love to see you guys again in about 19, 18 minutes. I'll see you on the next live stream. Bye, friends.